Hello, Gordon here. Hope all is well with you. This Facebook Live I've called Treat of the Day. But how many calories? Because I posted in the group, this Transform Your Life Now group, a today's Treat of the Day post where people can post links or whatever they want, funny stuff or links to their pages or products in my group. And the sort of thread has drifted round to chocolate because there's a picture of chocolate in the post. And I don't know if I've ever mentioned, have I ever mentioned, I like the occasional bite of chocolate. I don't know if I've ever mentioned that at all. Which is why I thought I'd call this video, I was prompted to do this video, how many calories? And this definitely falls into the health of those 5 key areas of life that I talk about: health, wealth, career, relationships or lifestyle. You could argue it's in the lifestyle category as well, but it's definitely in the health category. Calories. And I now call myself calorie aware rather than calorie counting. And here's the story behind it. A few years ago, I had decided that my middle-age spread was getting a bit too much, that it got to the point that it needed attention. So I decided the best way to do that was I knew full well that I was eating a lot of crap, a lot of chocolate and a lot of biscuits and cakes and crisps, all that kind of stuff. All packed full of calories and nutritional value of pretty much zero. So I thought, oh, why don't I look at calorie counting? Because when it comes to losing weight, let's look at losing weight. Now remember, I'm going to put a disclaimer in. I'm not a dietitian, I'm not a doctor, I'm not a physician, no qualifications. This is anecdotal, okay? Bear that in mind. But as a average size and shaped healthy man, I will get through 2,500 calories a day just by my bodily functions, the actual breathing and muscle and internal organs all functioning. That uses up energy. So if I laid in bed all day or sat on the couch all day and did nothing, I would still burn through 2,500 calories. That's a sort of benchmark figure, average. And they say for a woman it's about 2,000 calories. So if we look at my 2,500 calories, if I don't do anything all day long and put more than 2,500 calories in my body, I'm going to put on weight. If I do nothing all day and put less than 2,500 calories into my body, I'm going to lose weight. Now obviously, if the more activity you do during the day, the more calories you burn. So it's all relative. The amount of calories you burn during the day and the amount of calories you put into the body. It's the balancing act between the two of those. Put more calories in than you're burning, you're going to put on weight. Put less calories in than you're burning, you're going to lose weight. Now that is a massive sweeping generalization. But it's kind of true, and it's particularly relevant with the crap food. And I knew that. So here's what I decided to do, because I knew then and I know now that if you're going to improve something or change something or progress something, you need to put a measuring system in place. Because how can you improve something unless you're measuring it? So you have to measure and be aware of where you are now, be aware of the measurement that you want to get to, and measure how you're getting along to see if you're getting there. You can't make this kind of improvement, and it applies to most areas of life: health, wealth, career, relationships, lifestyle. Measurement. Put measurements in place. And when it comes to weight and health, calories is a good starting point. So a few years ago, I got into the calorie counting. Now I call myself calorie aware, and we'll come to that in a minute. Here's what I did. I would write down with you could do this on a computer screen, but I actually did this in pen and paper, old school, because there are brain science benefits of doing it with old school pen and paper. I would write down all the calories that I ate during the day. everything. I would write it down on a daily basis. And then at the end of the month, I would tally it all up, tally up all the days, tally all of those up, and then come up with the daily average that I was putting in for the month, I was eating calorie-wise. Excuse me. To see where I was and to see how much I needed to cut down. And chocolate, as I've mentioned, biscuits, cakes, crisps. Once you start looking at how many calories is in all that stuff, honestly, it is staggering. I always knew, everyone knows that that kind of stuff, I call it food, that kind of stuff is not good for you because it's packed full of sugar, it's packed full of fat, it's packed full of calories and hardly any nutrition. So it's not good for you, everyone knows that. But when you actually look at how many calories there are, it's unbelievable. If you're trying to stick to 2,500 calories a day or under 2,500. So let me give you an example. One chocolate bar, you know, a hand-sized regular chocolate bar, about 250 calories. Now the government introduced a directive, I don't think it's a law, that a chocolate bar should be 250 calories or less. And on the wrappers, you'll find the calorie count, and they are about 250 calories. That's fine, because it's easy to measure. One chocolate bar, 250 calories. It's when you get the big bars that you start to get the problem. A big bar of 200 grams. Because even though the calorie information will be there, for example, it might say 5 chunks, 130 calories. All right? So it is there, but then you think, hang on, who's counting how many chunks they're eating and counting how many calories there are? Well, I did. That's what I started to do. And that's where I was staggered, because with a big bar of chocolate, I would just eat, not just chunk after chunk, rows of chunks. Sideways. I'd put a row of chunk in sideways. I wouldn't think anything of it. But if one chunk is 25 calories, a row of maybe 6 chunks, 2 rows of 6 chunks, the amount of calories is unbelievable. So then you make a decision, because I'd started to measure the benefits of this measurement idea. And then I would say, okay, well, I will have a daily chocolate limit of 250 calories a day or thereabouts. Because that meant 2 things. One, it meant that I could eat chocolate every day. Because a lot of the reason many diets fail is because diets are excluding things. And you're saying, well, I've got to exclude it to lose this weight. But does that mean I've got to exclude it permanently? And that has a lifestyle impact. And what happens is people might exclude something completely for a certain amount of time, but then just go back to it. So, you know, any weight they lose just goes straight back on. That's a big reason why diets fail. So I was allowing myself to eat chocolate every day by doing this. So I wasn't missing out. I didn't have that mental block. But I knew how many calories I was eating. Now, sometimes would it go over 250 calories? Yes. But I was aware of it going over 250 calories because I was writing it down. And that applied to cakes, and it applied to biscuits, and it applied to crisps. And sure enough, as I did this, and it takes a bit of time for this to sink in, you've got to do it, I would say to anyone, you've got to do that for a minimum of 3 weeks. A minimum of 3 weeks, writing down every calorie. Now, some people say, I can't be bothered to do that. Well, that's a choice. That's a choice, isn't it? If you're not going to put a measurement system in place and work the measurement system, don't be surprised when you don't get the benefits and the progress that you think you were going to get. So what I found after I did this for a while and got used to it, so it became a habit, was that I dramatically reduced the amount of chocolate I was eating, the amount of cakes, the amount of biscuits, the amount of crisps. Dramatically. Now, I've been blessed that my metabolism and my body shape meant that for decades I could just shovel all that stuff down my throat and it wouldn't have a size impact on me. God knows what it's done to me internally, but externally, luckily, I got away with it. And I had always been suspicious that diabetes was just around the corner for me. All the sugar intake, not just the chocolate, all the sugar intake, everything else. Now, here's an important point when it comes to calories. Going back to that 2,500 calorie a day figure for a man like me, I can't just eat 2,500 calories of chocolate. Much as I'd like to, it doesn't work like that, because 2,500 calories of chocolate is full of shit, full of crap, no nutrition. Let's put it like that. Fat, sugar, not just the calories, no nutritional value. So it's not just reducing calories, a diet and healthy eating. It is clearly not just reducing calories. But having said that, if you reduce the calories of all the rubbish, of the chocolate, of the cake, of the biscuits, of the crisps, if you reduce the calories of all of that lot, there is only benefit. There's no downside to doing that. There's only benefit, because you're immediately reducing your calorie count massively, and you're immediately reducing the amount of rubbish that you put into your body in the form of fat and sugar and chemical E numbers and flavourings and all that kind of stuff. So then you can move on to other techniques, like using smaller plates, a fantastic technique, an old school technique, and it works. Eating more slowly, another old school technique which works fantastically well. Because when you eat slower, you feel fuller sort of quickly, you're not so ravenous, and you're actually enjoying and savouring what you're eating rather than just shoveling it down. And I use a biscuit example for this one. I used to be able to go through a packet of biscuits, a whole packet of biscuits, in one go without even thinking twice about it. Now, never mind the fact that, crikey, I mean, a biscuit might be 80 calories. If they're 10 biscuits, you're talking 800, maybe 800 to 1,000 calories of biscuits in one go. Outrageous. But what I realised was, and I don't know if you might relate to this, I would be wolfing down the first few biscuits. And it would only be the last one or two biscuits that I would eat slowly and savour them, because I knew they were the last ones. So I started to wonder, well, hang on then, am I just shoveling down the first ones in order to get to the last ones? It's ridiculous. So I started to savour the first one and eat the first one slowly. It was quite a change for me, rather than just shoveling them all in and only enjoying the last one or two. Insane. And what that meant was I was then able to develop the habit of only getting a few out of the packet, only getting maybe 4 out of the packet and putting the packet away. I wouldn't have imagined me doing that ever previously. But I would put the packet away. I could eat the 3 or 4 that I'd got out. Remember, I'd be writing them down on my little daily calorie sheet, and I could enjoy them. So now I call myself calorie aware, because I started doing that a few years ago. And I don't do it all the time now. Funnily enough, I still do it on alternate months. I still do it on alternate months. But here's the funny thing. What I do now is, although I write down the calories every day, I don't add them up. And you might think, well, what's the point in that? And it's a good question. It does seem a bit pointless, but the simple act of writing it down and knowing that if I eat something and I know it's bad and packed full of calories, it's going to have to go down on my sheet. And it does go down on the sheet. Knowing that is enough to keep me on the straight and narrow. So now I call myself calorie aware. So that if someone offers me a plate with a huge slice of cake on it, or I'm going to treat myself, so someone offers me a huge slice of cake, I will say, ooh, yes please, thanks very much. And I'll eat it, but inside I'll be thinking, right, how many calories is in that? And I'll do a quick calculation about how many hundreds of calories I think are in that slice of cake. And I'll still be eating it, but then it means, okay, so I won't have my chocolate ration for the day, and I won't maybe have the crisps for the day to balance it out. Does that make sense? Or I'm going over my daily treat ration of calories, but that's okay because I'm not doing it every day and I know I'm doing it. And that means that if someone does offer me a massive slice of cake, which no one has for a while, I can eat it and I can enjoy it and I can not worry about it. Or if I want to treat myself, if I'm watching the women's football or some sport or something, I can have a treat while I'm watching it and I can enjoy it because I know how many calories are in it and I know that I'm putting that into my body by choice on a foundation of being calorie aware. That has a massive impact in the health area of life transformation. And I spoke earlier about not being bothered. I've mentioned that tip to people who've said that they are on a diet or they want to lose weight, and they've said, no, I can't be bothered. I'm not going to be able to do that. Too many things I don't know how many calories are in it. Well, my answer to that is find out. Most foods, most foodstuffs has the calorie count on the outside, or you can go online and type in whatever this food is, calorie count, and you'll probably get the result. So it isn't hard to find out how many calories are in things. And if you're out and about and someone offers you something, once you become calorie aware, you can make a pretty good guess about how many calories are in it. So then it comes down to choice, doesn't it? There are plenty of diet sort of clubs out there. Weight Watchers and Slimming World is one that I hear people say works tremendously well, because that is again done on measuring what you're putting in, things you're allowed to do, things that they're called sins. You're allowed a certain amount of sins, etc, etc, etc. And guess what has hardly any calories but lots of nutrition? Remember I said the chocolate and the cakes and the crisps, high in calories, low in nutrition. So cutting those out is always a benefit. Well, something that's low in calories and high in nutrition, fruit and vegetables, no surprise there. Oh, another interesting story before I wrap up. This idea about having 5 pieces of fruit and vegetable a day, did you know that that is just a completely made up number? That number is different in different countries, and it's just a completely made up number. There's a professor that was asked how many people should eat, and he didn't know, he couldn't think of a figure off his head, so he just thought, oh, I just better guess 5. That seems about a reasonable number, and it stuck. I might do another video about that separately, but I just thought I'd slip that in. But the reason it sticks is because if you do think of fruit and veg, you think, oh yeah, I'll have one of my 5 a day. And in fact, on food wrapping, it'll say, this is one of your 5 a day. Because it makes us feel better if we get to our 5 a day, even though it's a made up number. It makes us feel better. And to be fair, we will be better. Because eating 5 items of fruit or veg a day, even though that's a made up number, is that better than eating 3 fruit and veg a day? Yes. Is it better than eating 0 fruit and veg a day? Well, clearly. You don't have to be Einstein to work that out. And no, a chocolate orange doesn't count, I found out. So there we are. A treat of the day, oh yes, but how many calories? So I hope you enjoy that message. Let me know what you think. Let me know if you've ever tried losing weight and how it's gone. I've still got a bit of a rubber tyre of fat around my middle because that is the fat that goes last. And that has been built up over many years of eating a lot of rubbish, let's be fair. How's it gone for you? Are you calorie aware? Are you a calorie counter? I'd love to hear what you think. Leave a comment below this video wherever you happen to be seeing this video. Signing off for now. 2 games of women's football in the World Cup to watch later, so I must dash. Wishing you as ever health and happiness, and I'll speak to you again soon.